very basic fundamental security concepts, and then this will have slowly increased it to identity access management, privilege access management, and they have increased it to Active Directory identity protection. So I'll go ahead and start with a very simple basic Azure policy, and then we will continue. So in this Azure policy, we are going to write a very simple policy, very simple policy, telling that in this resource group, no one should be, you should not be able to create any server in a specific location. So you can say that, OK, in this resource group, in South India region, you cannot go ahead and create anything. So in our lab, we will go ahead and select UK South. In UK South, we should not be able to create. Yeah, and we can also say allowed locations, denied locations and all. This is only for resource creation. That's it. Yeah, again, this is a very basic fundamental policy to start and understand the concept. Yeah, so for us, we will take two scenarios in our lab. So you see here, my VNet, we have something called as my VNet. Yeah, which is sitting in US East region. And you can go ahead and create a policy telling that, OK, allowed locations is UK South. Only in UK South region, we will be able to create tasks, or we will be able to perform activities. Yeah, let's go ahead and initiate. To do this activity, either I can do it with GUI or you can do it with a CLI. Because we already learned how to work with CLI, I'll go ahead and show it with CLI. So at this moment, how many resource groups do we have? AZ500 lab 1 and then a couple of resource groups. Now let's go ahead and create a resource group for this lab. Now all of our activity is going to happen on PowerShell. So let me go ahead and switch to PowerShell. Yep. So here I'm going to create a resource group, and this resource group is created. Let me go ahead and print the resource groups. OK, a simple resource group is created here just to show you. So in any case, if you see that the resource group is not reflected, you can reload the page. It takes time to reflect. If it is normal, if you refresh it, it will auto reflect anyway. It will search for all the resources and it will show you. Yeah, now you see the resource group is available. Now let's go ahead and use Azure policy definition. Go to the policy. Very simple policies are there. Now, if you look at, because I have been using these for the longer time now, in my case, you will see how many % of my resources are compliance with what type of policies. What type of policies? I can go ahead and define my own policy. Like you see, ISO 27001 policy. So my infrastructure is not in line with ISO 27001 policy. I have created ASC default, Azure activity logs policy. So I have created different kinds of policies, and I can say, oh, tell me whether my resources are in compliant with these policies or not. You can see the definitions of the policy here. You can see the definitions of the policy. Now there are so many policies that are available for you. Choose the policy which you like. Yeah. Audit virtual machines without disaster recovery. Vulnerability assessment should be enabled on your Synapse workspaces, SQL Server integration services. There are so many policies that are available, which are predefined policies. You can go ahead and define your own policy. Yeah? Yeah, you can have multiple categories of policies. For example, you are very specific to Azure Active Directory. You can see only Azure Active Directory policies. If you want to focus on very specific to backup policies, these are Azure backup policies that are available. Whichever is meeting your requirement, you can go ahead and enable it. For example, if you want a SQL Server policies, you have SQL Server policies. So if you click on one of the policy, vulnerability assessment settings for SQL Server should contain an email address to receive the scan reports. So this is a condition. This is a policy that every vulnerability assessment setting of a SQL Server should have an email address so that it can receive the scan reports. Now, for writing this policy, you can write the policy in the form of a JSON file. This is a JSON object, and you can write the policy in the form of a JSON object. So Nishant, can't we write it in GUI and then export it as JSON? Not at this moment. No, for example, here, I'll choose all policies, all definitions. Here I will search for allowed location policy. Search for allowed locations. See, allowed locations, regular general policy, allowed locations for resource groups. So let me go ahead and show you allowed locations, how it works. So if you click on allowed locations, look at it. This policy will enable you to restrict the locations your organizations can specify when deploying resources. That means it can help you to restrict the locations. So you need to see, if you cannot read fully, you can just copy it and read it. OK, use to enforce your geo compliance requirements. You can exclude resource groups, directories and resources that can use global regions. So region specific controls can be applied. So this allow locations policy will allow you to restrict locations of resources. It will only allow you to restrict locations of the resource, not resource groups. Not resource groups. Resource groups can be created in different locations, but in that resource group, creating a resource in a specific region can be controlled. Please understand, resource group creation is different from resources. If you write a allowed locations policy, inside the resource group, whatever you create, it will put control, not resource group creation itself, not resource group creation itself. I hope it is clear. So you can assign this policy. You can go ahead and assign this policy. And what is the scope of this policy? No, you can put it. To which subscription this policy should be applied? At this moment, my MSDN subscription, because I'm going to work on that. To which resource group you would like to apply? We have just created a resource group and click on that. So this policy is applied to MSDN subscription AZ500 resource group. If you want to allow any exclusions, at this moment, we are not allowing any exclusions. So what is the policy definition? Allowed locations, assignment names. So allow locations, you can go ahead and be very specific on which location you want to allow. You can say allow UK South. Allow UK South for AZ500. That means in AZ500 Lab 02, you can only allow resources that can be created in UK South. Only UK South based resources you are allowing in AZ500 Lab. However, AZ500 Lab is the East US. You are allowing resources to be created in UK South region, that too in that specific resource group. And do you want to enforce this policy? And who is assigning it? Any questions on this? Do we have any questions on this? Okay, no. Any specific parameters? Yeah, which location you want UK South to be allowed? This is a default deny policy and allow policy. Huh? It also denies and allows. Both of them are done in one policy. And remediation. Now, policies with the deploy if not exist and modify effects types need the ability to deploy resources and edit tags. Yeah. Very important to understand whether do you want to associate this with an identity or not. No. We don't want to associate with any identity for remediation because that comes into the incident management and remediation. Any compliance message you want to show? As per Personal Data Protection Act, you can only create resources in UK South region. Send an email. More information. Just a compliance message that I want to give. If this compliance is failing. Okay, click next and create the policy. So it would take few minutes to affect the policy. Now, this policy will take on an average of 5 minutes to 30 minutes. This policy will take on an average of 5 minutes to 30 minutes. Sometimes it will take time, sometimes it will reflect immediately. As per the documentation, Azure takes 30 minutes maximum to ensure this policy is affected. To ensure that this policy is affected. Clear? Because the policy that you have written, this should get reflected across the world. The policy that you have written will get reflected across all the data centers, across all services of AWS, sorry, Azure. It can only happen, it typically happens in 1 or 2 minutes. The maximum time is 30 minutes. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the next task. Now this time let's go ahead and create a virtual machine. I'm assuming that it is reflected. I'm assuming that my policy has affected. I'm assuming it. I don't know. If I go ahead and create a virtual machine, in case when you are doing the lab, and if you find that this policy is not taking effect, please give some time. Please give some time. In the lab resource group, I'll just go ahead and create. See, policy enforcement value does not meet the requirement on resources. Did you see it has taken effect? For me, it has taken effect. In your case, if it doesn't take effect immediately, take some time, give some time. OK. Is it clear? Yeah, it has. It is going to show you the policy error. See, list of allowed locations is UK South. That's it. So if I go ahead and select UK South, it should work. See, it's working. It's not giving any error. Clear? Any questions? Yeah. So now I will also combine the same thing with another lab. OK, you want to complete this lab and go for another lab, or shall I combine both the two labs together?
Combining is fine.
How about other people?
Yeah,
We can combine.
Okay, fine. Let's go to the next lab. Now, in this lab, we can go ahead and enable some resource logs. Again, this is most confusing thing and most useless thing. It is not important, but in AZ500, there will be one question from this. That's why we are talking. Ideally, this is after doing this lab, you will say, what is the point in having this kind of option also? But yeah, because we have to learn, no? I'm only teaching you because it comes in the exam. Otherwise, it is no purpose. There is no usage of it. I myself feel that it is waste of doing. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and create a simple resource group here. While doing it, I'll explain it. Yeah, in this resource group, I'm going to create a storage account. In this resource group, I'm going to create a storage account. See, wrongly pasted. So it's going to create a resource group for me. So let it create a simple resource group in this location. Now what we do, we can put a lock. We can put a lock on the resource group. I'm just waiting for the resource storage account to be created. If not, I'll just quickly go to storage accounts and see whether a storage account is created or not. Yeah, now you see the storage account is created. See, the storage account is randomly created, no? 111. Yeah, 111 could have been created. If I reload the page, you see 111. Two resource groups created, huh? Because I typed it 2 times, so it created 2 resource groups. So that's sorry, 2 storage accounts. My bad. Okay, let's go to the resource group. And let's go to the resource group. And I can put a lock on the resource group. I can put a lock on the resource group to avoid unnecessary deletion. For example, if I add read-only lock, if I add a read-only lock, yeah, no one will be able to modify. No one will be able to modify anything in this resource group. For example, if I go to this resource group, now I have done a read-only lock, right? I have done a read-only lock. I will try to delete one storage account. I will delete one storage account. So go to the storage accounts and try to delete one of them. Try to delete one of them. See, you got an error. Execute delete command on one selected items. It cannot because the scope is not allowing because of the resource lock. Please remove the lock and try again. This is like very similar to child lock. Yeah, you go to the resource group. Now go to the locks. Delete the lock. And you can add another lock. You can add another lock called as delete lock. Look at it. When I say delete lock, it will not allow me to delete. It will not allow me to delete resource groups. Nishan, the previous one also done the same job, but I can go ahead and configure the parameters. For example, I can change the parameters. I can go ahead and change the parameters. In the read-only lock, I can only do read operations, but in the delete-only lock, I can go ahead and disable. I can go ahead and change the properties of storage account or change the properties of the resources. Clear? For example, if I go to configuration, I can go ahead and disable. I can go ahead and disable few things. But if it is a read only, I cannot even disable. If it is read only, I cannot even disable. Clear?
Nishant, is it across the accounts or within the same account?
Across the accounts. Now, when I say across the accounts, whoever have access to this resource group. This is at a resource group level. Nothing whether you log in or I log in. Everyone will have the resource group lock applied. So if you have access to the resource group, then the same policy is applied for the same resource group. Because it is at a resource group level, nothing to do with other things.
Can control who can set the lock and who cannot set the lock?
No, no. That is the reason I was telling you, know, this is the most silliest option available. It is not useful, but yeah, because it comes in the exam, so I thought. That's why I taken a small lab for this. 5 minutes.
Then if you lock it, then I can go ahead and I can unlock it, right? You mean?
Yeah, if you are an administrator, you can unlock it. Yeah, correct. Then that's why you can ask me, what is the point in doing it? First only I said, you know, this is something which doesn't even make sense. They just give an option. We have shown you. That's it. Even I don't appreciate this option. OK. Yeah. So you guys can continue these two labs. Azure policy and resource logs. Yeah.
One quick doubt, Nishan. So
Yeah.
what if the user has a a contributor role on the subscription, and we set only the read-only privileges for this resource group? So which would take the precedence?
This is at a global level.
Global level.
Yeah, this is at a global level, irrespective of the subscription. But obviously you will be inside the subscription, no?
Yeah.
So even think I'm an administrator, right? Leave over the contributor. I'm the super admin. Correct? I myself cannot delete it. If a super admin cannot do, no other user can do it.
Unless we remove the lock.
Lock.
Yeah.
Because I'm the super administrator, right? As a super administrator, if I cannot do, who will do? No one can do it. Yeah, cool. So you guys can continue and then we will see how it is progressing. OK. Yeah, guys, take just like 15-20 minutes and complete this, and then I'll show you a little more advanced, a little more tough. And that makes more sense than this. Yeah, clear? So just take 15-20 minutes and complete this lab. Meanwhile, I'll clean up my resources also. Okay, I hope you guys were able to complete both of them. It was a very small lab. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Okay. Again, this is a little lengthy lab, tough lab to understand and to get confused. So don't worry, there are so many components in one lab, but I'll ensure that only few components are covered and then remaining I'll leave it to you for the exercise. Yeah, as a practice. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, we will not do all the exercises like the other exercises. Like I don't do all the lab and then do it because it needs a lot of a lot of learning in one lab. Okay. So you see a lot of components will be there as a part of this task. So the first task is to go ahead and deploy a VM. This VM will take a few minutes. That's why we are deploying the VM first. Ultimately, what we are going to do is we are going to show you a demo that whenever you are trying to log in from a different location, Azure Active Directory is intelligent enough to go ahead and understand from where you are logging in and protect it. Yeah, Azure Active Directory is intelligent enough to throw you multi-factor authentication when you're logging into Azure. And it is intelligent enough to block traffic if it is malicious. Or if you are trying to come from a different location, like if you are using Tor browser, it will not allow you to log in. Tor is also a browser which is kind of, unnecessary, right? You typically don't log into your Azure account from a Tor browser. So it can go ahead and block. So that kind of risk-based identity policies, sign-in risks can be blocked. That is what we are going to show you in this demonstration. For this demonstration, you need active license. That is premium P2 free trial license is required. Okay, let me go ahead and quickly spin up the instance because instance creation will take some time. And for this, we have already given you two different type of templates here. I have given you two different templates, AZ500 Azure deploy templates, and this time you have a parameters template. Again, no need to understand what is in there. Just it is simple. A VM is getting created. A simple VM is getting created. Virtual network is getting created. Subnet is getting created. And in that subnet, you are going to put a server. Are you with me? Any doubts? Let's go ahead and create a simple resource. Just go ahead and create a simple deployment template and click on build your own template editor. Just go ahead and upload the file here. Yeah, and click on save. Now you can see edit, but here you see resource group is not filled, region is filled, VM is filled, but username, password, they are not filled. Username, password is not filled. How do you fill this username, password? You can use parameters. You can use parameters file. Sorry. Yeah, parameters file to fill those information. See, student information is filled. Admin password is filled. Network is filled. Size of the VM is filled. This kind of decisions you can take. So you can put parameters which are very, very specific to that environment, and you can create a template environment differently. Yeah, I hope it is clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here you need to create your own resource group. I'm going to do everything in my MSDN subscription, and this is going to be the resource group. And I'm going to do this in East US region. And please remember, after completing this lab, you need to turn off because this is a little costly server. 2 CPUs, 8 GB, that's fine because it's a long taking. And if you go to the standard, you will go ahead and see the password. If you go ahead and open this file, you will go ahead and see the password here. Yeah, this is the password. This is a parameter file, simple parameter file. Okay. Any questions? So review and create. Because spinning up VM will take time, so we are just creating it and keeping it for a backup. This is for the fourth exercise. This is for the next last exercise we are creating now itself and keeping it ready. Yeah. So I just created the VM. Now this VM is nothing to do with the next exercise. This is for the last exercises. Out of 4 exercises that we have, for the fourth exercise, this is important. But it takes time to create, and we don't want it to be immediately. I want it to be immediately available and Azure to monitor it. So I just created it early. So the second activity that we are going to do is multi-factor authentication enablement. Now, if you look at the current Azure Active Directory that you have is currently having a Azure free AD. Currently, I'm using free Active Directory. Yeah, but to implement multi-factor authentication, to implement privileged identity access management, conditional, I need a P2 premium license. So let's go ahead and create a very simple new tenant. So at this moment, I'm currently using Nishant Consultant as an Active Directory, but we are going to actually change that method. We will go ahead and create a new tenant itself. We'll go ahead and create a new tenant. So click on Manage Tenants. Click on Manage Tenants. Yeah, you have this tenant. So if you already have a tenant, that's good. See, I already have a tenant. If not, you can go ahead and click on Create a Tenant. I'll show you. Click on Create a Tenant. So it's asking you, do you want to create a tenant? Yes. Of what type? Azure Active Directory or Azure Active Directory B2C? Now, who will use B2C? For example, I'm a Reva. I am Reva. Okay. And I want to give you B2C. Why? Because Reva can be used as single sign-on. For example, single sign-on with Reva University account. If I want to create that kind of scenario, and if I want to give you self-sign-up portals, self-sign-in portals, then I'll go ahead and choose Active Directory B2C, business to consumer. But here we are working on a B2B. B2C model will help users to go ahead and create their own resources and then create their own account, like self-sign-in portals. And then click on configuration. Now you go ahead and go ahead and give a name. Go ahead and give a name. So again, in my case, I'm going to give a different name. In my case, I'm going to give a different name. So my different name is going to be Reva. Today is 9 July. Reva 9 July 2022. But you all follow the lab guide, okay? What is the domain? So I'll just go ahead and take the same domain. Small domain I'll take the same domain. It's a unique name. Yeah. And then now, where are you going to operate? I'm going to select United States as the data center location. That means my Active Directory is going to sit in United States. For this lab, you choose United States, but when you do it on your own, you can choose India or not. When I say when you do it on your own, apart from this class, if you're doing any activity, you go ahead and choose India. Because we don't want to face that and these issues. At this moment, we want to smoothly complete the lab. Yeah. So click on create. A new Azure Active Directory will get created. A new Azure Active Directory will get created. Now be very cautious. Whatever activity you do here, you will be going to change personas. Currently, I'm doing everything as Nishant. Later, I will switch my identity. Like I will create a user called as Active Directory user 1, and then I'll switch my identity as Active Directory user 1 and then do actions. So you should be very cautious when switching the consoles. Now, to avoid any of the confusions, in my case, what I will do, I'll go ahead and use 3 different browsers to do 3 different jobs. What happened? Did not specify the reason. 3 and P. Oh, okay. Let me get the audio. Oh, it's difficult. Audio is more difficult. I'll just go ahead and get the 6. I hope I'm entering things correctly, right? The capture. Do you feel I'm entering the capture correctly?
Use completely caps.
Yeah, it looks correct.
Just check. What is this? LY G X Q W H X, right? Just check. Okay. I was hearing audio. Audio is more bad. Okay, I'm not sure why is it unable to create a tenant. Okay, anyway, you got know how to create a tenant. Just ensure that the tenant is created. Yeah, I think it's created. But why was it showing an error? Yeah, see, the tenant is already created. See, the moment tenant is created, look at there is already one user. Who created this user? If I go to that tenant, you will get to know. Please be cautious. You are switching the tenant. Please be very, very cautious. You are switching the tenant. When you switch the tenant, you will lose the power. When you switch the tenant, you will lose the power of working. See, automatically a user got created, and this user will get full permissions on this tenant. This user will get full permissions on this tenant. And look at his principal ID. It's entirely different. pattinishant_gmail.com/ext/ #reva9july22.onmicrosoft.com. It's a different principal ID. It's a different principal ID. Yeah, but I'm in which tenant? Observe. If you go to Azure Active Directory, do you see my entire console got changed because I switched the directory. I switched into a different Active Directory. See, I don't even have anything. I will not have privileges. I will not have permissions, nothing. This is a very fresh account, no? See, if I create, see, it's asking me to activate subscriptions. In my directory, it's asking for subscriptions. I doesn't have any subscription, no? Do I have any subscriptions at this moment? No. So you can search for subscriptions. So you can go for subscriptions. I don't have any subscription at this moment. I can go ahead and add subscriptions to this directory. So at this moment, I'll not go and manage any subscriptions, but rather I will go ahead and do my Active Directory job. So I'll switch to Active Directory. Please observe in which Active Directory are you in? Reva 9th July Active Directory. Be very cautious. You will not have any credits. You will not have any credits in this Azure directory. Is it clear? Is it clear? You don't have any credits in this. So you should always switch back to Nishant consultant. In my case, Nishant consultant. In your case, default directory. Clear? It will be a lot of confusion, guys. So please follow me from the beginning. And if you go to licenses section, for your default directory, your licensing is not enabled. But you see here, all product licensed features, all products. You can self-service sign up products. So at this moment, you don't have any product, any licensed feature. You can go ahead and enable. So which licensed feature you want to enable, you can go ahead and choose. OK. Go to all products. Click on try and buy. Now there are two types of licenses that are available, E5 license and P2 license. Now, if you purchase E5 license, you will get MDM, mobile device management. You know, MDM, right? Mobile device manager from SOTI, VMware, AirWatch, VMware AirWatch. Like that, you will get mobile device manager for E5 license, where you can go ahead and implement solutions like bring your own device, throwing SaaS challenges. A lot of stuff can be done with E5 license, but E5 license is very, very premium, and you can do Azure rights management. Intune can be integrated like a DLP or EDR. You can say EDR. You can implement it with E5. But if you take premium license, you will only get Active Directory Premium with advanced features like multi-factor authentication, enabling for your Active Directory users, then writing conditional policies, risk signing risk, what do you call risk signing risk-ins. Sorry, risky sign-ins. My bad. Risky sign-ins. Yeah, that can be applied. Self-service capabilities can be applied. Clear? So for this demo, you will be only activating P2 license. You will be activating P2 license. And to activating the license is easier. Removing this license is tough. It will take time. You need to do 10 to 12 activities in sequential order to remove this license. But you will not be charged. After the trial license expired, you will not be charged. Yeah, if you go to all purchases, you should be able to see now. Let me wait. Go to my licenses, all products. I'm waiting for the license to activate. It's saying that premium it is activated, to know whether it is activated or not. I'll go ahead and reload the page. See, Azure Active Directory Premium is activated. So Azure Active Directory Premium comes with 100 user capability. That means you will be able to get 100 users only for P2 license. But if you want more than 100 users license, you will go for E5 license. Yeah, you will go for an E5 license. Any questions? So almost all organizations will have E5 license only, but they will not use the capabilities of E5. That's it. Yeah, click here. See, I have licensed users. Now the benefit of this premium licenses, you can assign Windows user licenses also. That means if someone has a laptop without a Windows license, if they log into their account, like today Microsoft Windows 11 comes with, you can log in with your Azure account, right? Do you all know that today Windows comes with the capability of logging in with your own email ID. So if you have your own email ID, then you can log in and a license will get automatically issued. Yeah, let's go and create some users. Don't get confused. It's very, very important that you should not get confused in this section. It's a very confusing area. So now I'm in the Active Directory and then user section. I'm in the Active Directory user section. Click on new user, create a new user. Very, very similar to what we have done before. Okay, the username is this. I'll copy this ID and keep it safe. Like the Joseph. Yeah, you can go ahead and create a random password for him. Just doesn't matter. You want to give it because only name matters important. Auto generate. I'll copy. Yeah. Is he a part of any group? See, I need one user, global administrator, so that he can manage all my operations. So click on user and make him global administrator. A global administrator has everything he can do. He can do everything. Can manage an entire Active Directory and manage services. All Microsoft services he can manage. So I'm making this guy as a global administrator. So after me, who will have more permissions? This guy. AD user 1 has more permissions after me because I'm a global administrator. I'm super administrator. I have control of the entire Azure account and I'm creating this guy. So I'm making him also global administrator, but he will only have control in this directory. I will have access to all directories. He will only have control of this directory. He cannot come and delete my Nishant consultant directory, but I can delete this directory itself. Yeah. Now from which location he's going to operate. Yeah, my entire Active Directory in United States. I'll select United States and click on create. Now a simple user got created. Like that, I'll go ahead and create a couple of other users. So it's giving me some error. What was the error? Let me see. Okay, I think I'll do it once again. Unable to create user. And if your cache did not go, if the cache having an issue, this all issues will come. Microsoft is bad at handling the caches. I have to create a new user again. Let me do that again. The password is changed. Now, he's the global administrator. He's from United States. And click on create. Yeah, user is created. I'll create another user. Meanwhile, I'll create my own password. This time you can follow the lab guide, but I'm just creating my own password here. And this guy, I'm not giving any permissions. He's not part of any group. He doesn't have any role. He's also from United States. Two users created. I'll create another user. I'll create my own password. I'm not assigning any group to this guy. United States. Create. So by now I have created 3 users. Let me reload the page. It takes a minute for all of them to reflect. Now we have created 3 users. And for how many users did we activate Azure Active Directory license? Did we activate any license for all of these guys? These 3 are there, but none of them are part of the license. That none of them are part of the license. How do you know? Go back to go back to the Active Directory section. Go back to the user section. Normal users. Go back to your licenses. Go to all products. Active Directory Premium. Did you see any licenses consumed? You have only 100 users and no license has been consumed. No license has been consumed. Yeah, click on the Active Directory and you can assign this license. You can assign this license to anyone you like. Yeah, we will assign the license. You can ask me, Nishan, they could have given the feature to add the license there itself. Yeah, there are multiple places. Second user, third user. So for 3 users, I'm activating the license. For 3 users, I'm activating the Azure license. Active Directory Premium. Yeah, it's asking you, do you want to turn on the Premium 1, Premium 2 features? And see, Azure multi-factor authentication, do you want to enable? And do you want to enable Microsoft Defender for cloud apps? Only for those people who have license, they will get these options. If they don't have license, they will not have all these options. Any questions? And click on assign. So there will be 4 people who will get, there will be 3 people who will get Azure Active Directory licenses. Now only the persons who has Azure Active Directory license will get these features. See, 3 licenses are activated. So if I go to licenses section and try to reload this page, you are in Azure Active Directory. Please remember, later you will get confused. Reva 9 is whatever the activity I'm doing it in Reva 9. You remember exercise 1, I have created a server. Exercise 1, I have created a server. In which directory did I create? In the Nishant consultants directory I have created. So this server is sitting in a different directory. All the lab is happening in a different directory. Yeah, let's go ahead and enable multi-factor authentication for all the users. For all the users, I will enable multi-factor authentication. Go to my Active Directory. So go to the security. In the manage section, in the manage section, you have to go to security, and in the security, observe in the manage section. That means inside the Reva University, there is a security section. Inside the security section, there is a multi-factor authentication section. Multi-factor authentication section. Click on the multi-factor authentication, and then you see here Azure multi-factor authentication. Use multi-factor authentication to protect your users. So if you enable multi-factor authentication, all your users will be enforced to use multi-factor authentication. See additional cloud-based configuration settings. Click on additional cloud-based multi-factor configuration settings. Now it's asking you for your users or for your services. Do you want to enable services multi-factor authentication, or do you want to enable users multi-factor authentication? Be very cautious. By default, it will select services. Many people I have seen in all my classes, they will get confused here. I'm sure you will also get confused here. Be very cautious and read the documentation twice. Read the documentation when you reach here twice. OK, just go ahead and review the options in the service settings. See, allow users to create app passwords to sign in. And then do you have any trusted IPs? So if you mention trusted IPs, it will skip the multi-factor authentication for any of the tenanted users. And do you want your users to select text or phone based? Do you want your users to have notification through mobile app? Do you want your users to have verification code through their mobile or hardware token? Do you want to enable these options to your users? Yes, I would like to enable. Yeah. Now allow users to remember multi-factor authentication on devices. So if you enable this option, the users will get an option. Do you want to remember in this browser? If you don't enable this option, they will not get that option. Are you getting me? For whatever the users should get an option, you are controlling it. You know, you are the administrator. You are the security administrator. You are controlling what options that the user should get. Yeah, click on save. So it's saving the activity. And then next go to the users. And then you can select. You can go ahead and select each user. Do you want to enable multi-factor authentication, or you can do a bulk update also? Yeah, at this moment, I will enable for all the users, or you can just enable for one user also.
Nishant, why does it have to remember the multi-factor authentication? Like it's unique every time, right? So
No. For example, I'll show you. This is my Google. Now I'm trying to enter and I'm trying to log in. OK. See, after entering this, it will ask you, do you want to remember? See, it will ask you, do you want to remember? See this button, no? I'm getting, do you want to remember? See, this is in Arabic, but it is a do you want to remember? Do you want to remember the browser? So if I say, please remember the browser, next time when I log in, it will not ask me OTP.
okay.
Correct or not? Have you
But
seen that
what,
scenario?
But what is the use of having a multi-factor authentication? Like, I mean, consider
Correct.
that I trust the
Correct.
browser, so the reason I save it, but
Correct. That's it. So that's what I'm telling you. Today also you will get that option. For example, why are you giving that option? I don't know. That's what I'm telling you. I don't want to give an option, but some customers are frustrated every time to ask OTP. Yeah, I'm signing in. If you sign in normally, so see, please check the box. In all mine, I have disabled. I said, I don't want to trust my browser itself. Some people are there who want to trust. So what to do for them? Some people ask, so we have to enable. If you don't want and don't enable, up to you. The options are with you. Yeah. So I'm just going ahead and enabling it. I'm enabling multi-factor authentication. I did not enable that trust my browser option. Huh? See, I did not enable trust my browser option. See, I did not enable it. I'm not giving. I'm a little tough security guy, so I'm not giving my options. But if you don't give this option, some people will get frustrated. They'll say, what if I'm logging into my own browser? Why should I not? See, this is very similar, no? Chandan, right? You asked me this question. What happens if every time if you log into your Prime, it is asking you to log in. You want to watch Prime video, it is asking for password. What is your opinion on this?
but that is something with respect to the password which we save on the browser, right? But since we are adding an additional security like the dual factor or
That's
the
what I'm asking
multi-factor
you. One very
authentication.
simple. No, very simple. Now you are logging into your Prime. Okay, you have an Amazon account. When you log into your Amazon account, will it ask OTP?
Yeah, it will ask the OTP or if you know the password.
So when there is a password, why I need OTP?
Yeah,
Additional security. But there are some people after enabling additional security, they want compromise in the security. Some people will be there. Huh? What to do for them? For them, we have to enable this kind of options.
And soft token, is it only the Microsoft Authenticator or you can integrate it with
Any authenticator you like, you take it. No problem.
Okay,
any authenticator you can take it.
Got it.
Yeah, but hardware tokens, there is a specific criteria and all for it.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So now I have enabled multi-factor authentication for this guy. So if this guy logs in, we'll get a multi-factor authentication. Any questions? See, I can go ahead and enable a couple of settings for him. Explicitly, I'm doing a couple of settings for him. Just observe. Only for this user. Manage user settings. C. Require selected users to provide contact methods again. What does that mean? Whenever a user logs in again, he will be again asked to enter Gmail, his backup email ID, mobile information. Without entering that information, he cannot sign into his account. Are you getting me? If you enable this at the time of user, when he logs in, he will be asked to enter his email ID and he will backup email ID and he will be asked to enter his mobile number and validate that mobile number again. Now he will be given a capability to delete all his existing app passwords. He can restore his multi-factor authentication on all remembered devices. That means, for example, he forgot. Let's understand this case. Now I have logged into my computer. Yeah, I did not trust my computer and I have it multi-factor authentication, not on a OTP based, but on a soft authenticator like app based authenticator where there is an app that I should open. A random password will be generated and then that random password I enter in. So I'll be given access. Think I formatted my phone. Due to some reason, I formatted my phone. Now how will I log in? I formatted my phone. How will I log in? Can I restore my multi-factor authentication from a remembered device? That means if I could have remembered my laptop, from that laptop, I can reset my multi-factor authentication. So these kind of options do you want to provide to your customer or not? I don't want to provide any easy things. Let the customer come to me always. Let my user come to me always if he want to do anything. Clear? Any questions? OK, close. OK, I'm keeping this aside. I'll go back to my multi-factor authentication. Account. So I'm in the multi-factor authentication getting started. Where is the MFA? I'll refresh this. I'll just go cancel. I'll go to my multi-factor authentication getting started account. Clear? Now here in the multi-factor authentication, you can go to settings and look for a fraud alert. See, allow users to submit fraud alerts. Allow your users to report a fraud if they receive a two-step verification request that they didn't initiate. You want your users to report a fraud if they receive a two-step verification request, even though if they didn't initiate. Do you know these options? For example, whenever I log into my Twitter account, I'll get an email telling that, hey, Nishant, there is an OTP that is being asked. Is that you who has initiated? If not, go ahead and call this number. If not, go ahead and reset your password. Do you get that? Something like that? As a user, do you get that option? Have you came across?
I'm not sure about Twitter, but then there are instances where I've received multiple OTPs for different applications
At the same
within
time.
a span of few minutes.
Yeah. Now, to whom you will report? How will you report it to that user? Will you ignore, not report? Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
We ignore, we don't report, but I want my users to report it to me. See, that's why I'm allowing users to submit the fraud alerts. And do you want to automatically block the users? Do you want to automatically block the users who reported the fraud? You know, if you enable this option, what will happen? People will stop reporting frauds. If you punish the user who is reporting the fraud, he will stop reporting. Correct or wrong?
Yeah. So here, if the users submit the fraud alerts, who would receive it? So will it be the
Administrator.
global administrator, or
Yeah, global administrator and the full administrator of this account will receive it.
receive? Okay.
We can also configure notifications. There is a notification section there. You see, you can do a lot of stuff. I'll come to that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now what am I doing? I'm being a very strict user. I'm telling that automatically block users who reported the fraud. Now there is a code here. Code to report frauding during the initial greeting. This is a little confusing thing. Just ignore it at this moment. Ignore it at this moment. Click on save. I'm enabling the fraud alert. I'm enabling the fraud alert. Any questions here? At this moment, I have enabled the multi-factor authentication for Active Directory user 1 and I have configured a fraud alert setting. Clear? And I want all these policies to be enforced now. I want all these policies to be enforced. How will you enforce the policy? If you go to the Active Directory, Blade, under the Manage section, you will see Properties. Under the Properties section, you will see Manage Defaults. Manage Security Defaults. Enable the security defaults. Be very cautious. You have to only enable this option. Enable security defaults. Blade. See here. What will happen? Security default is a set of basic identity mechanisms recommended by Microsoft. When enabled, these recommendations will be automatically enforced in your organization. Administrators and users will be better protected from common identity related attacks. What will happen if you disable? Now, you can disable with specific people. For example, we would love to understand why we are disabling security defaults so we can make improvements. My organization is using conditional access. See, in Azure Active Directory, there is a second type of security. What you have done is a fraud alert is a basic security. There is a second type of security called as conditional access. In the last lab, if we want to use conditional access, in the last lab, we are going to use conditional access. Because we want to use conditional access, I'm disabling the default security mechanism. I'm disabling the default security mechanism. Is it clear? Because I want to use conditional access capabilities. Any questions? If I have to show you conditional access capability, I need to disable here. Otherwise, the default security mechanism of Azure will be kicked in. Are you getting me? Okay, click on yes. Yeah, you have disabled the default security options. And then you said, I'm going to choose my own conditional security. Now, as an administrator, I have done some configuration. Now, whatever I have done, I want to validate. Whatever I have done, I want to validate. Now I'm using Google Chrome. I'm using currently Google Chrome. You know what I will do? I'll go ahead and use Edge. I will go ahead and use Edge. That too, incognito window of Edge. I will use incognito window of Edge to test my user. See, in my Google Chrome, normal window, I am logged in as Nishant Kumar. But in my Edge incognito, I am logging in as Active Directory user 1. I'm logging in as Active Directory user 1. See, it is asking you. More information is required. Your organization needs more information to keep your account secure. Click on next. What is that more information? Let's see. Now it is asking you to keep your account safe. You can use Microsoft Authenticator app, or you can use any app, that doesn't matter. See, on your phone, you can install Microsoft Authenticator app. After you install Authenticator app, you can choose next. However, if you want to use a different app, obviously it's a Microsoft product. Everyone will ask you to use Microsoft only. So now what I'm going to do, I need Authenticator. So I'm going to open Microsoft Authenticator on my. Yeah, I think I have Google Authenticator. I will enable using Google Auth. Yeah, I have Google Authenticator. See, I say I want to use a different Authenticator app. See, set up an Authenticator app. Click next. It is asking me to scan. I'm using a different authenticator. Next, doesn't matter which authenticator you want, you can use it. I scanned it and I have authenticated, and it's asking me to enter the code 696601. Enter. Now one method is set up. And second method, please validate. See, because I have chosen this user to be a United States user, by default it has shown me a United States user. What I will do, I'll go ahead and choose India. And text me a code. So it's going to send me a code. So I'm waiting for a OTP. So I'm sitting in a different country, so I have a delay in receiving the codes. I need to wait. If not, what I will use, I'll use a different method. Yeah, now it is received. 211947. Click on next. Now I have set up my account. Click next. Great job. You have successfully set up your blah, blah, blah. What is that? Done. Now, see, it's asking me to change my password also. Set my authentication and change my password. Today, if you are doing this lab, please ensure all your passwords are saved in a notepad and keep it somewhere. Because next week you are going to continue this and you should have it handy. So click on sign in. Is it clear now? How to enable multi-factor authentication and all?
Yeah.
Any questions? OK, here there's something called as task 3. I'm giving you that as an exercise. Yeah, complete exercise 1, exercise 2, and exercise 3. Exercise 4 is a little complex. However, if you want to continue exercise 4, you can continue as a homework. If not, no need, but exercise 4 needs exercise 1, that is VM. So without creating a VM also you can switch. The only reason I have created a VM is because the moment you switch the context, to exercise 2, you will be in the exercise 2 mode, that you will be working in Active Directory. You will forget that you have to switch back. You will forget that you have to switch back to the default directory to gain access to your Azure user. That is your Azure VM access. Yeah, that's why I made it before only. I created it before so that you don't change the context. Making sense? Anything that you are doing, you will do it in the new Active Directory that you have created. That's why I have created the first exercise as the Azure VM. Now, in case if you are not doing exercise 3 and exercise 4 today, in case if you are not doing exercise 3 and exercise 4 today, you don't need to do exercise 1. You don't need to do exercise 1, directly go to exercise 2. But if you are doing exercise 3 and 4 today itself, then you need Azure VM. That is exercise 1. I hope it is clear. All this is documented in the documentation. If you read the documentation, it will be clear. Or do you want me to complete exercise 3 also? That's better. Conditional access. Yeah, I think that's better. I'll complete the conditional access so that I'll give you enough time to practice at home. Are you okay? Are you guys okay? I'll show you conditional access also today. Just 15 minutes.
Yeah, should be fine.
Okay,
Sure.
let's go.
Sure, sure.
Let's go to the Active Directory. And under the manage section, be very cautious. Everything will be under manage section. Under the security section. Under this, there is a protect section. In this section, there is a conditional access. And you can write a policy. When any user is outside the company network, they are required to sign in with multi-factor authentication. When the user in the managers group sign in, they are required to be an Intune compliant or domain joined device. Like this, you can write conditional access. Are you understanding the sample conditions? If a user is outside the company network, they are required to do multi-factor authentication. However, if the user is a manager's group, if the user is in the manager's group, he is only required to be an Intune compliant. That means he should have an Intune software, and that Intune software should give him compliance, or he should only join from a domain joined device. So like that, you can write very, very granular conditional policies. So let's go ahead and write a very simple policy. New policy, and the policy name is AZ500 policy. Be very cautious here. A lot of things are there under one screen. So here users are workload identities. Now for which user you want to enable this? For which user you want to enable this? Do you want to enable for all the users? Do you want to select few users? I will select few users. Who is that few user? Second user. I'll assign it to second user. Clear? So this policy is only applicable to whom? This policy is applicable to whom? Second user. Okay. Now, what cloud apps or actions he can do? He can only manage Azure account. See, Microsoft Azure management. If this guy's user number 2, yeah, if the user number 2 is logging into Microsoft Azure, if the user number 2 logging into Microsoft Azure, then what conditions should be validated? I should I should refer to sign-in risks. Sign-in risk is different from user risk. Sign-in risk is different from user risk. So sign-in, yes, configure. Now, whether this user is considered as a high sign-in risk or low sign-in risk. You can be very, very specific here. You can be very, very specific on the conditions. Yeah, I'll cancel it. I don't want to use it. I'm just telling you. Yeah, then you can device platform. You can say, hey, this user should only log in from Android devices, should only log in from iOS devices, should only log in from a Windows phone, Windows, Macintosh, Linux. And this guy should only be accessing from specific geolocation. From a Microsoft trusted IPs only he can log in. You can be very, very specific on what he can do. Clear? Then you can say from this client app only he can configure. From this client app only he can work. Like that you can be very, very specific. Yeah, I'm not configuring any conditions here. I'll go to grant. See, do you want to block him if these conditions meet, or do you want to grant access? Yeah, if you want to grant access, what do you want? You want to provide multi-factor authentication. Does he need to log in from a compliant device? Does he require Azure Active Directory joined device? Does he require client approved apps? Does he require protection policy? Does he require password change? I will say he require multi-factor authentication. Or you can select multiple also. That means multiple things are applied at the same time. Multiple things are applied at the same time and click on select. And do you want to enforce this policy on that specific user? Yes. See, enable policy report only. Report only means if this happens, it will report, but it will not enforce it. Create. Now this is one policy we have created. Now this is up to you. There are more than 45,000 combinations you can create. It's all so many options. No, any permutation combination you can apply. One policy. So this is where a lot of time you will spend your time. If you are a person who is controlling multiple active directories at a global level, you will only spend time in doing this job. OK, this is about conditional access. That's it. Exercise 3, task 1 completed. You can do task 2 and remaining things. Yeah. If you want to leave for today due to any reason, please feel free to leave. But without practicing, don't leave without practicing. If possible, today, tomorrow, just practice everything. OK. Exercise 4 is a exercise. It's a homework. You have to do exercise 4 as a homework. If not, if you have any issues, do let me know in the next week class. That's fine. And what are we going to learn next week class? In next week's class, I'm going to teach you security monitoring. I'll teach you security monitoring. What should you read when you come to the next class? I'll show you. I'll give you a link of what you have to do reading when you come to the next class. I'm going to give you a URL. You need to come. If you want to study before you come to the next class, I'm sharing a URL in the chat box. Complete that. So that next week it will be easy for you to understand. OK. Any specific questions? Yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you then next week. And I'm keeping the platform open for questions. and discussions. Those who want to leave, they can absolutely leave for the day. But before you leave, I'll give you day 3 feedback. You can go ahead and provide me your day 3 feedback.
Hi, Nishant, I have a question regarding the kind of
Yeah.
questions.
No worries, please continue.
So, well, like, will we be getting the questions based on whatever we're discussing in the class?
Correct.
As in the steps can be referred to the
Absolutely.
which
It's an
we have
open
shared?
book. It's an open book exam.
Okay.
But
Because I mean,
time will be
there's a
limited.
lot of content which is getting in, and the amount of practice that is possible also a little limited. So, regarding the exam, if we can get some, important
See,
topics we
very
have
simple.
to focus on.
Very simple. Keep the lab documentation while you're writing the exam. That's it. For
Okay.
example, if I ask you to create a user in the lab documentation, you know where to go and look for the user creation, right?
Right.
If I ask you to write a sign-in policy, you know where to go and look for a sign-in policy. You know where to go and look for. If I ask you to create a VNet, you know where to go and look in the documentation for VNet.
Okay.
That's it. That should be your answer. Almost everything is going to come from the lab documentation, so should not be a problem. I know it's a lot of data, but that's okay. Digest it slowly, slowly digest it. Take your time. No hurries.
Okay. What about MCQ? Will that be MCQ as well?
Yeah, there will be MCQs also. I know it's a lot of data. That's why I'm not pushing MCQs at this moment. I want you to, spend some time digesting all this information.
Yeah, I mean, for people like me, the cloud usage itself is little less. So
Yeah, I do understand. No worries. So how many of you are very, very new? I know Venkateshwara, for you, it's easy. Some of them are easy for them, but yeah. For example, Niranjan also, it's easy. So let's can you please raise your hands if you are feeling little difficult on what I am discussing? You can raise your hands, and there is nothing wrong. Huh? There is nothing wrong in telling that I'm feeling difficulty. If you feel difficulty, I'll help you. I'll put more content in such a way that I can make your job easy. See, until and unless you tell me, no, how will I know whether you're facing complexity or not? I'm assuming that I'm teaching something basic. But if you feel, Nishant, this is over my head, this is getting difficult, no problem. I'll go ahead and help you to digest that data, bring smaller examples, bring easy examples, bring some easy labs.
actually, I'm able to follow what you're explaining, but the content is so much that that can be confusing a little. That's what is a concern I'm having from my
Yeah,
end.
that is there. That is there. That's why I always tell you, no, practice, practice, because that will only come with practice. I know it's a lot of content. Trust me, I'm only telling you, no, it's a lot of content that you're learning.
Okay.
And a lot of reading is also required for you to digest this. So what I will do next week, I'll be a little more slower because next week is more complex. Because you have to switch between 10 different screens in the next class. So don't worry, I'll go step by step. We'll see fundamentals and then we will see. For those who says, no, Nishant, what you're teaching is bacha, I need more advanced. I'll bring more exercise like this. Yeah, which is more complex. So those who are very new, they can do it. And exam will not be keeping advanced users in mind. Exam will be keeping basic users in mind. I hope it is you are getting me, no? Exam will be keeping basic users in mind, not keeping advanced users in mind. Okay. Yeah. Always refer to this page if you have any doubts. There is a lot of good documentation here for all the concepts that we are talking. Please always refer to this page only. Very good documentation, crisp, easy to understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have received a feedback here. Need additional lab scenarios to practice at home. If you are able to do all this without looking at a documentation, that itself is a good practice. I don't think, for me, I don't think you need more lab practices. If you are able to do this itself without looking at the documentation, that itself is a great achievement. That I can tell. With the experience of teaching 4+ batches only for Reva University and more than 20 batches outside, what I feel is this itself is good enough for you if you are able to do all this stuff without looking at a documentation. But still, if you say me, no, Nishant, I can do all of this without looking at a documentation, that means you already became master in security for AWS, sorry, for Azure. We can go for more advanced after this. So once you reach this stage, let me know. I'll this content, I'll keep it aside and I'll give you a different content if you are able to complete all of this without looking at it. Yeah. So
Nishant,
yeah.
still how many weeks class we have and when we can expect the exam?
No, see, this is a different module. Next week is the last class in this module, and after that week you will have an exam.
Okay, which means
4 weeks, and then there will be an exam.
Okay, which means 23 we can expect exam.
Correct.
On July.
Yeah, 23 you can expect the exam. But trust me, guys, it will be very easy as long as you have practiced. If you have practiced, if you know where to look in the documentation, that's it. It's easy. But if you have never, just for the sake of reading the documentation you read, and you have never done a hands-on lab, then it is difficult. Then it's challenging. I hope you got it. Yeah. So if you want to leave for the day, you can absolutely leave. I know this will take time, the lab, practicing and all. Yeah, keep rolling your questions. No worries. I'm here.
So, Nishant, for any cloud security requirements in any of the firms or any of the organizations, right? So if we take care of whatever aspects which are covered in these 5-day modules, that should be taking care of all the defensive security aspects.
Most of the defensive. But the only problem is I did not enable all the options here in the policy writing. Ideally, in the real world, I would expect you to write all conditions and enable all types of accesses. You getting me right? See here, how many conditions I have utilized for a demo? Only one. But in the real world, I would expect you to enable all of them based on your scenario. I don't know what scenario will work out for you.
Okay. And what are the typical interview questions for any of the cloud security job roles?
So there are two types of people who will ask you questions. This is my opinion. I may be absolutely wrong. You can tell me, Nishant, you're wrong. No worries. There are two types of people who will ask you questions. One is they will ask you how it works. And the other people is, OK, if in which screen, if you click, what option you will get and which option, which screen, that kind of people. If that kind of people asks you a question, then it's very difficult to answer. But if a person who is matured enough asks you a question, like, what is the typical process that you follow? And what are the challenges that you are facing when you're doing a sign-in policy? When, what are the different kinds of roles that you will get? Different type of roles that are available. What do you think? What are the most commonly used roles? How can I enable MDM and how can I configure MDM? What type of policies I can do? What happens if you configure this policy and will there be an issue? Now this kind of question comes, then it is easy to answer. And that kind of questions, you can only answer it when you do hands-on. Got it, no?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, any other questions? Good.
Nishant, hello.
Yeah.
So if we want to understand the similar concepts parallelly with AWS, then the videos that are shared are, is enough to cover all these topics.
Which videos?
There is a link shared by.
What is the course name? Cloud Practitioner Essentials.
Yeah.
See, Cloud Practitioner Essentials will give you introduction.
Okay.
This is not an equivalent. In Azure,
Okay.
sorry, in AWS, the equivalent is AWS security.
Okay. Okay.
The Cloud Practitioner Essentials is like basics for your security.
Okay.
And you will not see same options, by the way, because there is no Active Directory again. When I say there is no Active Directory, it's only equivalent service called as a directory service. You will not see all these options there. Whatever we covered today, no, you will not see in Azure. Sorry, AWS. Whatever we covered before, first day and second day, you will see. Like for example, second half identity access management, it will not be same. They are entirely different. And there, identity and access management doesn't have user sign-in risks policies and all. They don't have it because they don't expect like you don't expect Windows users to log in from AWS account. You expect Windows users to log in from Azure Directory account. Correct? That's why this option is only available here. You don't see these options on Azure. Sorry, AWS. Oh my God, I'm always getting confused. I'm teaching Azure, AWS back to back.
One more question. Like when we go for an interview as a cloud security engineer or something, then they will expect us to have a knowledge on both the technologies, or at least one should be enough to at least.
That is very specific. No, that is depends upon which to whom you are going. For example, if my company is only using Azure, if you are coming for an interview, I would expect you to respond only on Azure. If my company is using AWS and if you are coming for that interview, I would expect you to speak on AWS. But it's very rare that companies will ask you both. But there may be companies who will ask you both. We don't know. We cannot guess. So always look at the job description. That will tell you. They will say cloud security in multi-cloud. I don't actually recommend see, I'll tell you. The way you need to look at things should change. If a HR is asking you multi-cloud, yeah, and if they are only talking about Azure in the bottom, like see, they will say multi-cloud, and in half of the description, they will talk only about Azure. That means it's a fake description. That means they don't even know what they want.
Okay.
And that's how I look at it. See, if you want a multi-cloud, you ask me multi-cloud architectures. Don't ask me how to work in Azure Active Directory by asking multi-cloud engineering. That's a big problem in the job descriptions. Because they don't even, many HRs, they don't even know what they want.
Yeah.
So that's why always ask them, on what cloud they are going to work and all in the initial call.
Got it.
This is a very common issue that is happening today.
So Nishant, what kind of projects can we do to project in the CV from CV point of view? Claim any experience in cloud security?
See, I'll tell you. Academic projects are always different from industry projects. I'll tell you very simple. In industry, enabling an Active Directory is a project, but in academics, enabling an Active Directory is not a project. rolling out an Active Directory for a company is a project in an organization, but rolling out for 4 users an Active Directory is not a project in academics. I hope you understood, no? For example, implementing a firewall is a project in academics, but enabling the firewall and configuring it and showing it is not a project in academics. So you need to come up with something which will meet both. You got me? You got the strategy I was telling?
It actually sounds the other way, right? Like in the conventional cases, when we do some projects, some small projects, it's academic point of view, it's good, and industry point of view, they won't accept it. But here it's the other way it sounds.
Yeah. You will realize that when you start the first project.
Does it mean the on job it's going to be much easier than the academics depth?
Yes. I'll tell you the reason. See, the thing is, the problem here is integration. See, in the industry, you will have more integrations than individual products. But if you show an integration project, people will not accept in academics because they will say, OK, what did you develop new? You just integrated 2 tools and given me. That is already there. See, in academics, what happens is they look at from a different point of view. They want you to develop something. OK, but in industry, they don't expect you to develop. They are in a software development company, they expect you to develop. But in an integration or a service-based company, they will expect you to integrate tools. Yeah. So if you're looking for a Reva project, then your mentor will be the right person. Whoever is your mentor, he will be the right person to judge you, to tell whether it is an building, whether a project has to be built or whether a project has to be configured. For example, sorry, currently I have one mentee. I have a mentee with me for a different team. He's doing final year project. Then we are doing it differently. What I'm doing there, I'm asking, take any application. It doesn't matter what application it is. It is a .NET application, Java application, doesn't matter. But put that application on AWS cloud and enable all security features of AWS cloud. And we are naming it as, securing SaaS products using AWS cloud. So we are using EC2 we are using security groups, we are using encryption, we are using database encryptions, key management system. We are going to use WAF, we are going to use Route 53. So that, only from a specific geographic location they can access. Something of that sort. Maybe Venkatesh, you can go on mute if you're not speaking. Yeah. You got it, no?
Okay. So the takeaway, what I can say is, as long as we have personally done the hands-on and we're able to answer the questions of how it works in the backend, we can claim that we have that experience and we can go through the interview without any, project kind of.
That should not be that should not be a problem as long as you have the experience and if you are able to talk. You will be going through the interview.
So we don't have to mention that we have done any project or something like that.
No problem. It doesn't matter. See, that's what happens. No, see, you cannot have a project. For example, I'm working in a service-based company like Infosys. You are working on 4 different projects, correct? Now you are working in a product-based company. For you, it's not a project. It's an implementation. You cannot call it as, OK, Active Directory project we have implemented in product-based companies. Correct? So those who are working in service-based companies, they will talk in the form of projects. Those who are working in product-based companies, they will talk in the form of I have implemented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not a project for you. It's an IT team. You are a part of a team. You don't work for anyone. The perspective will change. You're getting me?
Right.
See, if you're working in a product-based company, you have to implement a firewall. Will you call it as a project? It's an activity for you. But same, if it goes to Infosys as a service-based company, I'm taking Infosys because I'm so passionate about that. Yeah, there You say, oh, I worked in a firewall project. I worked in an IDS IPS project. The way they project is different. The people are not matured enough when they are projecting it. So you need to project it differently. Say, boss, yeah, I have worked in firewall implementation. Now, whether you work for a GK project, whether you work for a Reva project, whether you work for some other, doesn't matter. I know how to implement firewall. You tell me whether you want or not. And now I know how to implement IDS IPS on a cloud. I know how to implement a load balancer on cloud. Whether I implement for this project, that project doesn't matter. What I need is load balancer skill. The load balancer skill has to be projected in the resume.
Yeah, pretty clear, Nishant. Thank you.
No worries. Cool then. That's it then. I'll see you next week. All the best.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.